What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. Time for the Week 12 Playoff Eliminator. We've got some new eliminations this week and a little bit of a change in the overall playoff picture. These are the teams that were already eliminated coming into this week, and we're down to, I believe, 10 teams. 10 teams that still have a shot to make the college football playoffs. So the new eliminations this week: Ole Miss, Penn State, Tennessee, Utah. Penn State was the only team that had a realistic chance. A very realistic chance if they won out. Ole Miss was always going to need a lot of help. Tennessee was going to have Ole Miss beat Georgia. Like, Tennessee was actually eliminated. Didn't matter if they beat Missouri because they needed Ole Miss to beat Georgia for them to have a chance. So they would have been eliminated even if they had beaten Missouri. Utah with the third loss, they're out of it. They probably did not have a chance anyways. The committee has really not respected Utah these last couple of weeks. So those teams now eliminated. We look at the teams that are still undefeated in the Power 5: Florida State, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington. And of course, if these teams went out, Michigan, Ohio State will play each other, and there will be no controversy. We'll have 4 Power 5 teams that are all undefeated, and those champions will move on to the college football playoff. It probably will not go that way just because it's college football and it doesn't normally go the way you would expect. All right, how about the one-loss teams that are still alive? We got Alabama, Louisville, Oregon, and Texas. I think Oregon and Texas, I don't know. I'm just looking at which teams control their own destiny. I think Oregon does because of where they're ranked right now. I think they would pass Washington, take their spot. And I think Texas kind of controls their own destiny as well because Ohio State and Michigan will play each other. Of course, it's going to get crazy if Alabama beats Georgia. It's going to really be complicated, and there's going to be plenty of controversy if that happens. I'll kind of go over some of those scenarios in just a second. I don't know about Louisville. I mean, if they win out, if they beat Florida State in the ACC championship, can they climb all the way up? Can they pass these teams? I think they're going to need some help, but I think it's possible. And I still think there's a 2-loss team with a chance, and that's Oregon State. Going to need a lot of help, obviously. But you look at what they have in front of them. They could possibly knock off the number 5 team or the number 6 team in Oregon, and then an undefeated, I'm going backwards here. They could knock off Washington, the number 5 team in the country, Washington. Then they can knock off Oregon, who maybe is number 5 at that point, and then probably they play Washington again in the Pac-12 championship. So you're talking about 3 top 10 wins down the stretch, and they're already going to be in a great position. I'm doing this video before the rankings come out, but I expect them to be, in that 10 to 13 range. So they're not going to be that far behind. Yes, they'll need some help, but if there's a 2-loss team that has a chance, it's Oregon State, and they clearly, to me, are the only 2-loss team now with a chance. So the playoff picture now, I made some changes. Again, this is kind of assuming the favorites win out. Georgia, I think, is going to be favored over Alabama. They'll take the number 1 spot. Then you're going to have Ohio State or Michigan, whoever wins there. You expect them to go on and win the Big Ten championship. They're going to be the number 2 team. If Florida State wins out, they're going to be at 3. So then the 4 spot comes down to potentially Washington or Oregon. If one of those teams winds up winning, or winning out, I should say. I think they're going to be in. So I said earlier, Texas Texas does not control their own destiny, because if that happens, if Washington goes undefeated, everything else happens there, or even if Oregon wins out, I think Oregon would stay ahead of Texas because they're ahead of them now, and they've got some big games here down the stretch. So I think Texas would need help, and I think Alabama would need help. I think Alabama would need a lot of help. When you look at this, if they're going to be behind Texas, Washington, and Oregon, what are they going to be able to do to pass them? Well, you could say, knocking off Georgia, yeah, that's going to be a huge win. But that's it. That's the only big game they have left. Washington and Oregon have multiple big games left. Texas, they maybe don't, but they've got that head-to-head over Alabama. So I don't know, would they ignore the head-to-head and jump Alabama ahead of Texas? And then would Alabama even pass Georgia? Could Georgia possibly just fall to number 4 and still get in? How much do they value that head-to-head? Because Georgia's going to have a really, really good resume. Remember, TCU lost in their conference championship game, but did not drop out of the playoff. But it was a little bit of a different scenario because Kansas State was not in the running there for the playoff. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if Alabama beats Georgia and we don't really get any other upsets. But we'll probably get some other upsets. I don't know which ones they'll be, but that's just the way it goes. So your thoughts on the playoff picture, let me know down in the comments below.